Is what it is. No. All right, let's go over here in the Moed Katan Chafalef Amud Aleph. We'll start Chafalef Amud Beis. We'll start in the top of the page, and we're actually doing laws of mourning. That's what we're doing over here, right? We're doing laws of mourning. So we're going to continue doing laws of mourning. Tan Rabbanan. So we learned in Abraisa that Ovil, a mourner. So somebody died who he has to mourn for, a parent, a brother, a sister, a child. So Gimel Yomim Horishonim, the first 3 days, Asur b'melacha, is prohibited melacha. We're more used to the halacha 7 days, but in the Gemara there is the opinion that the main mourning is on 3 days. So and they're more strict the first 3 days.
Yeah,
So
but did they sit Shiva or they sat Shlosh?
they said Shiva, but
So there's two different stages within the
it's
Shiva.
exactly. So the first 3 days, as you'll see, there's always seven in a minute. You'll see that is there's seven there too. The first 3 days, it's prohibited to do malacha. Malacha takes your mind off from the morning, and you should be focused on the morning and not get sidetracked with other things. Now, vafilu oni hamisparnes min tzedakah. Even if you have a poor person who usually he gets his livelihood from charity. So, which means that he's very poor, and it's essential for him to go do work. And otherwise, he's going to probably take more from tzedakah. He doesn't have any money. Still, we say the first 3 days of mourning can't do any work. Not mikan ve'elach, from the third day and on. Oise bitzino b'toich beisa, which means for 7 days for the shiva. From here and on, from 3 days and on, the poor person who needs very much to do work because he needs the money, so he can do it in a quiet way, b'toich beisa, within his home, so that it's not a public thing that he's doing work, but he can do in his home. And the same thing is v'ha'isha tava b'pelach b'toich beisa, that a woman, she does the weaving. The pelach is the weaving equipment with what you weave. Uh, she can do in her home. Now, over here, I don't see the distinction over here. The Rashi seems to say Isha Avela. It's more a woman who is in mourning. That weaving is okay for her to do. It doesn't say after 3 days or if they're poor. It just says that a woman is allowed to weave, use the polach in her home because that's sort of quiet and maybe it's not as distracting. Also, it doesn't, that weaving is not as distracting. To look in the reasons why, but that's what it says in the Brisa. Tanarabano, another Brisa. It says, Ovel Gimul Yomim Horishonim, a mourner for the first 3 days, again, more strict. Eine Hoylech Lebeis Ha'ovel. So let's say there's another mourner. He's not allowed to go outside of his home, even to go ahead and comfort another mourner. Mikan ve'elech, from here and on, meaning after 3 days and on, Hoylech he can go. But ve'ena yoshe b'mokim hamenachamim, ela b'mokim hamisnachamim. When he comes to the other home, you don't sit in the place with the people that are doing the comforting, but you go to the place of those who are being comforted. You sit with the mourners because he's still in his shiva as well. Ela b'mokim hamisnachamim, but in the place of those, it says Somuch la'avelim, next to, close by to the mourners in the house that he went to. Okay. Tana Rabbanon, another brisa. Avel gimel yomim harishonim, a mourner the first 3 days. Asur b'shi'ilas sholem. He's prohibited from greeting. You can't greet, you can't answer, you're not supposed to interact with people that greet you. But mishloisha ve'ad shiva, from the 3 days until the 7 days, after the 3 days until the shiva, meshiv ve'eino shoel. Over there, at least he's allowed to respond. So if somebody greets you, you can answer back, but you cannot still open up and greet somebody else. You can respond, but not greet. That's from 3 to 7 days. What happens after 7 days? Become ve'elach. Shoyu l'meishiv kidarke. After 7 days, you can greet and you can respond as you usually do. There's no restrictions. The Gemara is going to question now this brisa. Shloisha yomim harishonim osur b'shi'ilas sholem. Are you saying that the first 3 days you can't greet? The Gemara is going to bring a story in where Rabbi Akiva seemed to greet those who came to comfort him. He seemed to greet them, and it was only the first day. So the Gemara says, Shloisha yomim harishonim osur b'shi'ilas sholem. The first 3 days it's prohibited to greet. V'otanya, but we learned in Abraisa, Maise u'meisu bonov shel Rabbi. There was a story, the sons of Rabbi Akiva died. So Rabbi Akiva became a mourner. Nichnesu kol Yisrael. So all of the Jewish people there entered. The hispidum hesped gadol. They eulogized them, the sons of Rabbi Akiva, a big eulogy. B'shas pitirosom, when the people were about to leave Rabbi Akiva, Omad Rabbi Akiva al Sapsel Gadol. He got up on a big bench, on a tall bench. Va'omar, and he said, Achenu Beis Yisrael Shimu, my brothers, house of Israel, pay attention, listen. Afilu Shnei Bonim Chasonim. Even if these 2 sons were my sons that were married, which means that they had wives already. They happened to be 2 of his sons who weren't married. But he says, even if these 2 sons were chasans, meaning they were married, menucham hu, he is comforted, meaning I am comforted. Menucham hu is comforted. Why? Because of the honor that you have done. You've come in there and you made such a great eulogy. Even if it was the married children, which would be more painful, still, I feel comforted. So Rashi explains, Afilu beis banim chasonim, kavarti. Even if I would have buried 2 married children, menucham ani merev kovet shasisim li. I am still comforted from the great honor that you did for me. And then he continues. He says, Ve'im b'shvil Akiva bosem, if you came because I'm Akiva, hare kama Akiva b'shuk. But there's many Akivas in the marketplace. Why this Akiva? Why did you come to me? There's many Akivas. How come you didn't go and comfort other Akivas in this marketplace? Rashi, Ve'im b'shvil Akiva bosem, hare kama Akiva b'shuk. There's many Akivas in the market. You didn't go to comfort. Why did you come to comfort me? But this is what you say. Toiras elokov beliboy. God's Torah is in his heart, meaning that Rabbi Akiva learns Torah. That makes Rabbi Akiva special. So he says, so you didn't just come for Akiva. You came for the honor of the Torah. So the kol shkein shescharchem kaf, for sure, your reward is double because not only are you doing the mitzvah to comforting, but you're giving honor for the Torah because you came to me because of the Torah. So you get a double reward. And he tells them, L'chu levateichem l'sholem, go home in peace. Going home in peace is a way of greeting them, is a way of sending them off. So Rashi asks, so he asked them how they are because he was telling them to go in peace. That's a way of greeting. That's a way of blessings. But we just said that during the first 3 days and the 7 days, you're not allowed to uh, greet people. How was he allowed to go and make this public, get up on the bench and make this public announcement? And the Gemara says, Koved Rabim Shaini. Because you're talking about there was a whole big crowd over there. So this was greeting and giving honor to the many. They all came to greet him. So that's a different story. And that's why that was done by Rabbi Akiva. But normally during Shiva, you should not greet people. All right. Then the next thing what the Brisa says that the Gimel Va'ad Zayin Meishiveinu Shoyl. From 3 till 7, you can respond and not greet. You can answer if they greet you, but you can't greet. But Mikam Ve'elach, after 7 days from here and on, Shoyel Umeishiv Kedarka, you can go ahead. Till Shloshim, it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and greet and respond as usual. The Gemara is going to bring now from a brisa that we see that you cannot greet all the shloshim. Uramino, I'll ask you a question. And here you're going to see the betoich lamed yoim ein shoyel. The question is that within 30 days, we're going to learn that you cannot greet people. And also, the einoi medaber imoi tanchumim. You don't do both. You don't greet them. So within 30 days, you can speak to him. Again, look inside. One who finds his friend who is in mourning. So we say like this. If it's within 30 days that he is an ovel, then you can speak words of comfort with him. Within 30 days, you can still comfort him. However, but you don't greet him. You don't. It's already within 30 days after Shiva. That's going to be the question. But you see, here you don't ask even after 30 days. But what happens if it's after 30 days already? Then in the reverse, you can ask him how he's doing. But you don't speak, you don't comfort him. After 30 days, you don't comfort anymore. Another scenario. Yeah, but the reason we bring down this brisa is to ask the question that here we see that even after Shiva, you still don't greet. But there's another halach in the brisa. The brisa brings down Mesa Ishtoi V'nosa Isha Acheres. His wife dies, and he goes ahead and he marries another wife. And that was still within 30 days. V'nosa Isha Zaktrashi, B'toich Shloishim Yoim, within 30 days. Kigoin She'ein Loi Bonim Kid L'Kamo. Now, if he has children, then you have to wait. There's a waiting period. The Gemara is going to discuss it later on. But here, it's within the 30 days, and he marries the other woman. So now, the halacha is, Einei Rashoyi, he is not permitted, Likones Lebeisei Ledaber Imei Tanchumim, to go into his house. The guy is married to a new wife. To go into his house and speak to him comfort for his first wife, that's offensive to the second wife who he's married. So during the shloshim, to go into the house and speak tanchumim, that's prohibited. That'll be offensive to her. Rashi says Eina rashoy lekonis lebeisei lenachmai. He can't go into his house to comfort him in his house. Why? Mishum chalishas das the isha achrona, because of the she'll feel bad. The second wife will feel bad. But what does it say? Katoni mihas betoich lamed yoim eine shoyel bishloime. So here we're saying that within 30 days you're not allowed to greet the mourner. Kolshkin sha'avel atzmai eine shoyel bishloime shel zeh. So for sure that the mourner can't ask him greeting. So if you can't greet the mourner can't for sure not greet you. So we see after Shiva you still can't greet. Ulil Katanim, before it says, Mishiva ve'elech meishiv v'shoyel kidarkei, that after Shiva, you can go ahead and ask and respond and ask normally. How was it? So that's the question. But there's one more halacha. So while we say you can't go into his house, but if he finds him in the marketplace, Omer loy besofer rafa ubekoyed resh. He says it in a soft tone and with seriousness. Even though you're comforting him, in the house, you're not allowed to comfort him. But in the street, if you find him in the street, so then you do it sort of in uh, light voice and with a seriousness. So you make a distinction because he's already married. So, but the question we have still, nevertheless, how is he the other person that's allowed to greet him? Uh, that over here it says you're not allowed to greet within 30 days, only after 30 days. And before we said that from Shiva you can ask already. So Omar Rabbi Idi Barovim. So Rabbi Idi says like this: Who shoyel b'shloim acherim? He can ask the word acherim is used in two things. He can ask b'sholem acherim. She'acherim shruim b'sholem, because the other ones have peace. This
He
word
meaning the mourner, or he meaning the comforter?
the comforter. So let's do the Rashi. Omar Rabbi Idi, who shoyel b'shloim acherim? He can ask the Koloimer, Teretz. This is the way to answer. He says that you can go ahead and ask normally while it's in 30 days. When you're asking other people how they're doing, but they are at peace, so there's not a problem. But when it says the other people shouldn't ask him. You know, we don't want other people asking you how you're doing when you are in 30 days. You are taki allowed to ask people, it's not a problem. After Shiva, you can go and ask how you're doing because the other people are doing well. So it's okay to ask them. But it's not okay for the other person to ask you how you're doing, to ask the mourner how he's doing, because the mourner is not doing so well. He's just still in the morning. It's 30 days, but he's still in the morning period. So that's why that it says, "V'hodekotoni b'toich lamed yom eine shoyel b'shloimeh," meaning that ein acherim shoylim b'shloimeh. Others don't ask him because he's not acherim ein shoylim b'shloimeh shu eine shoylim b'sholim, because he's not b'sholim. So there's like a difference. Others are allowed to ask. I'm not allowed to ask him, but he's allowed to ask others. So, but the Gemara says, "V'midikatoni meishiv," but it does say, "Lachar yom Um, it says Megimel Vad Zayin Meishiv Ve'ein Shoyel. Here you're saying that the person is not allowed to even ask after 30 days. But it says from 3 to 7, you can respond. If you're responding, that means that somebody's asking you, right? Because why would you be responding then? Nobody asked you. But with the Ketoni Meishiv, since it says that he's responding, so Miklal, so from this we know the Shailinale, that you could ask him. B'toich Lamed Yoim. So you could ask, because in this case, you're even asking, people are even asking him after 7 days, after 3 days, they're asking him. So the question is, the one who says that within 30 days you're not allowed to ask, but even in the 7 days you'll ask. So because we say you're responding, that means that they're asking. And the Gemara answers Loyadi. You're responding to people who don't know that you're a mourner. The Liadi Klemer. Ho the Tony the Meishiv Lahani the Shailile. This is a response to those who ask him, but Layodu the Ovelhu. They don't know that he's an Ovel. Avel man the Yoda the Ovelhu. But one who knows Ovel, then you're not allowed to ask within 30 days. Frag die Gemara, Yehochi. Okay, so over there, it does mean that you're allowed to actually ask him. The fact that it says that he responds, he's only responding because the people didn't know. They greeted him. They didn't know he was a mourner. So they went and they uh, greeted him. So we're saying that he's allowed to respond. But for a person who knows you're a mourner, then he's not allowed to ask you. He's not allowed to ask him. Yochi, so the Gemara says in that case, so you're saying that the person that asked didn't know. Hosam Nami. So over there too, what does it mean? Rashi. If you're saying that they don't know that he's a mourner, even if it's in the 3 days, he can answer. So the one who greets him, Nami Meshiv Laman Liyoda V'Sholei B'Tech Gimel Yomim. There's something with the Rashi over here in the parentheses. Um, Afilu Gimel Yomim Nami Meshiv, to the one who asks him. And he says that he's a mourner. Laman Diyol Lo Yoda. I'm not sure what this means. So I learned the Rashi. I got to look in the Gemara. Afilu Gimel Yomim Nami Meshiv Laman Diyol Lo Yoda within 3 days. Because you say only after 3 days. If the person didn't know, you should be allowed to greet him because he didn't know you were a mourner. And the Gemara says the difference is like this. The first 3 days, you have to tell him I'm a mourner. Hossam moidalu. Over there, he lets them know, but he doesn't answer them. Hossam moidalu hodu katoni kol gimel yom also b'shul shalim. That is prohibited to greet, and avol moidalu the avalu. But he lets them know that he's a mourner. He doesn't answer them. So we're not talking Mesha. You don't do it all. You don't answer. But you tell them I'm a novel. But Hacha, But in our case, after 3 days, lo tzarich lu'di'inu. There, he doesn't have to tell them that I can't answer you because I'm an oval. Hachal achar gimel, lo tzarich lu'di'inu. He doesn't have to tell them. Lamad liyodi d'ovalu. He doesn't have to tell them. Elameshiv. So after 3 days, if you don't know that he does know he's a mourner, so respond to him. First 3 days, you tell them, I'm a mourner, but don't answer them. But after 3 days, you can answer them. But one who knows you're a mourner shouldn't even greet you after 7 days. Why? Because you're not in a good place. So what are you going to tell him? He's going to greet you, say, how you doing? And you're going to say, oh, I'm fine. I just lost my parents or whatever, something like that. So you don't have to, you shouldn't greet him at all. That's what the Gemara has made the distinction.
That means for the first 30 days.
Yes, for the first 30 days.
But how does the guy who's mourning know whether the person knows or not? So someone greets you.
No, he greets him. So he has to tell him. What does he tell him? He doesn't answer him his greetings. He just tells him, I'm in mourning. Can't respond to you. If it's after 3 days, he says he doesn't know. He says, how you doing? So evidently he doesn't know that he's a mourner. So he's asking him. So answer him. You don't have to tell him.
Okay.
Read the Gemara. At least up till now, we know that after 30 days, you're all set, right? But here we have another brisa, which seems like all 12 months. Urimino, let me ask you a challenging question. Moed says, you find your friend who's a mourner, and it's already in the middle of the 12 months. He can speak with him words of comfort. He's still the 12 months. But you can't ask him how he's doing. So that makes it difficult. Before we learned in the Braisa that after 30 days, you can go ahead and greet him. So here it says that within 12 months, you're not allowed to greet. After 12 months, you can ask how he's doing, but before we said after 30 days, it switches around. And you don't speak with him words of comfort. However, so before the same statement was after 30 days, but here the Gemara is making the statement after 12 months that you can comfort him up to 12 months, but you can't greet him till after 12 months. But Abu Metaber Imam min Hatzad. But you speak to him from the side, which means after 12 months, you say in a side way. Sho'aimelei tisnachem. Rashi said what he says him, be comforted. Ve'enem maskir shem hames. But don't name, that means on the side you don't say, oh, your mother died, your father died. He just says, be comforted. So that means sideway, not the full comforting. Comfort after your mother, after your father. Just tisnachem. But it's only after 12 months. Let's continue the Braisa. Amr Rabbi Meir, says Rabbi Meir. Hamoitze es chaveda ovel acher yud beis chodesh umedaberi metanchumim. If you find your friend after that he's a mourner after 12 months, and you start comforting him, lemahu daima, what could he be compared to? That's not a proper thing to do. Lemahu daima. What could he compare to? La'odom shenishbaro lagloi v'choyse. It's compared to a person whose leg was broken and it healed. And the doctor goes and tells him, Kalach etzli, you should come to me. I'm a doctor. Shani shoivra ve'erpa'ena. I can break it and heal it. And I have the best drugs that I can heal you the best way. Listen, the guy healed already. Why are you breaking his leg again? Why are you telling him I'll break your leg so that I can heal it? You don't want to comfort a person who's already finally after 12 months. You don't want to mention it. That's the mayor's opinion. The other opinion said, no, he didn't disagree. He just gives an example. He does not disagreeing. He says, you can speak on the side, but he says, if you speak full tanchumim with him, you're like breaking his leg again. I mean, you're say, I'm going to comfort you. Let me. Sometimes you say, you embarrass somebody. Don't say what he's embarrassed, and then say you're sorry again, because by bringing it up, you're embarrassing him again. You're doing it over again. I think one answers like Kashya. This is not a question because ha be'aviv ve'imay. A father and a mother ha be'aviv la'aviv ve'imay. So father and mother, you don't ask how they're doing up till 12 months. You have to wait for 12 months. But habishar krevim, but this is by other relatives. Then you can ask after 30 days. So the Gemara asks, since over there, by other relatives, there's a difference. By the parents, we were saying after 12 months, you go on a sideways, you do mention something. But when we talk about the other relatives after 30 days, over there it says you don't do anything. The Gemara asks, some nami over there too. Shloishim the mukmaslei b'shar krevim. The 30 days that you say about the relative, why doesn't he speak to him on a sideway after 30 days? You don't want to say beferish. You want to specify, but why don't you talk on a sideway? After 30 days. After 12 months, he speaks to him from a tzad. So why does it say that after 30 days you don't talk with him tanchumim at all? Why don't you? Well, it should be symmetrical, the same like with the parents after 12 months. You still talk with tzad. Why don't we do the bashar krevim? And the Gemara says, Hochiname, you're right. When it says you don't speak comfort, it doesn't mean you don't speak at all. It means you don't do the usual way. So even by the relative, you can also speak minatzad. It's no difference between a relative after 30 days and parents after 12 months have the same din. We don't comfort him directly, but minatzad, we do comfort him. Tanarabban. Okay, you got it? Go weiter, yeah? Tanarabban. So, we learned in Abraisa that Ovel Gimel Yomim Horishonim. During the first 3 days, he's a mourner. But he lived not in the place where the mourners were. He comes. And when does he start? When does he start Shiva? Does he start Shiva his own Shiva because he hasn't seen, he just came now? Or the family's already been sitting for 3 days? Can he be part of it? So, if he comes from a place which is close by, in other words, he could have been there, then he counts with them. Rashi. With the mourners that are there. Since he was in a close place, he's able to come in the beginning of the Avelis. It's not, he didn't come, but he could have come. So then we count it as if he came. He'll only count another 5 days. If he comes within the first I guess, during the first 3 days. So their count that third day is one of the days, plus another four. So that'll make it 5 days together with the other ones. Sit together with the other ones. But if he comes from a far place, in other words, he couldn't be there, then then he has to count 7 days for himself. Then he has to do complete 7 days for himself. What happens if it comes after, not within the 3 days, at the fourth day? Even if it comes from a close by place, he's still going to do his own. Only if he joins them within the first 3 days. Rav Shimon Aimer, Rav Shimon disagrees. He says, if he comes in Mokum Korev, and even if it's on the seventh day, still Moine Mohami will count with them. All right, that's his halacha. Amar Mar, Gemara is going to explain now. Amar Mar Gimel Yomim Marishonim Bam Mokum Korev. He said before, quoted in the Braisa, that the first 3 days, if he was nearby, he could have come. He counts with them. Amar Rabbi Chaim Barab Amar Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Chaim Barab name Rabbi Yochanan. V'hu sheyesh godel habayis babayis. That the condition is that the older one of the home is in the home, so you can be dragged along with the older of the home. Rashi, sheyesh godel habayis babayis. Shabo motzo godel habayis babayis. He came and he found the adult, the head of the household in the house. Moine imam imambai availa habayis. Then you count with them, with the mourners of the house. V'zeh shabo hu hatzoyir mimenu. And the one who comes is younger than him. So he is older than him. And the guest, the one who came late, is younger. But if the adult was on the road, he wasn't there. The one who lives nearby came within 3 days. I feel even from a close place. Still, he's going to be counting for himself. If the godel comes to the younger, in other words, the younger is there. In other words, a younger one can be part of the household if there's an older one there. But an older one who's on the road, then he comes and the younger one is sitting, that doesn't count for him. He has to count for his own. He cannot be dragged. He cannot be pulled along with the younger one. So if the younger one is at home, then it doesn't work for him. Okay? So the Gemara said, Iboy. So they had a question in the yeshiva. Turn the page, Chav Beis Amud Aleph. Hola Godel Habayis Lebeis HaKvoros. So the older one of the home, he went to the cemetery. And therefore he's not home. Hola Godel Habayis Lebeis HaKvoros. Achar mitosei lekoivrei. He followed the coffin, the bed, to bury him. V'shoah gimel yomim, and he was delayed for 3 days. Mahu. So what is the din with Shiva? Mi chashvin lei command dahavi bebeisei. Do we count it as if he was home, as if he was sitting Shiva? It was for the needs of the mace. He went along with him, so he needed to stay with him. Maybe that's going to count for Shiva. Toshma, the Gemara says we learn a brayse. The Rabbi Chaim Barab Rabbi Yochanan. It said name of Rabbi Yochanan, not a brayse, but Rabbi Chaim Barab Rabbi Yochanan. Afilo hola godel habayis lebeis hakvoros. If the older one of the house went to the cemetery, moine imohem, he would count with the people that are back home who started Shiva. Moine imohem, the avelus shalem ischilu, they started mourning mishachozru pneim min hameis. As soon as they turned away from the mace, once they let the mace go, they started avelus. Avelus shel godel achiyistim agoyel. The mourner of the adult is until the stone that covers the grave um, uh, it's covered. So that's when he starts. So he's going to be counting with those people who started Shiva right away. Frag die Gemara, how could you say my name on? How could you say he counts with them? Vatanya meine la'atzmai. But we say that the older cannot be dragged along with the rest of them. We said before that if he's the older one, he has to count for himself because he's an entity by himself. And the Gemara says, like Kashi, this is not difficult. Why? Because Hod the Osu begoit loso. They come together with three. If they come together with three, then they're gonna count with them. Hod losu begoit loso. And where they didn't count, they didn't come together, then he's gonna count for himself. Ki Hod Amar Lahu Rav libnei hatzilfoni. Rav said to the sons of Tzilfoni, Rash says a Mokkah, a place called Tzilfoni, the Osu begoit loso, if they come together, three together, limnu ba'adaicha, they count with you. The Osu begoit loso, limnu nafshay, if they don't come together, I guess if three come together, it's considered like already a whole group. So we don't want to stand them out. It goes together with everybody else. We're not going to make a separate group. So you're going to be with the rest of the house. But if it's by themselves, then he should count his own. Amar lu Rav libnei Mechuza. Rav says to the sons of Mechuza, Atun de lo yazlitu basar arsa. You don't follow the coffin. Rashi says, lo yazlitu basar arsa. The man the azl basar arsa, if you follow the coffin, lechayla alei avelis, the avelis does not rest upon them, until it's covered, the grave is covered. They would lead the bed, the coffin, from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, to bury. All the relatives, they're not able to go up all the way to Eretz Yisrael. They escort the mace for a parsa or a meal, and they go back home. So he says, you're not really following the bed all the way to Eretz Yisrael. So he's telling them, when you turn your face around from the door of the city, of the outer gate of the city, and its surrounding, the asisu libeso, so then start counting the Avelis. I'm not sure exactly 1 second. But basically, he tells them once you turn around from there, you're not following. You start Avelis. Aschilumonu. You may Avelis. Start Avelis. Afal gav de lo nikbar hameis ad yomim rabim. Even though the mace is not buried for many days. The mourning does not begin until the stone is covered. But according to for you, the loy merzi chaz araschem kinistam agoyla. You don't witness, you don't see they're coming back. That is like the goyla was covered, and that's where the mourning starts. Okay.
They would never know, like, they would never know when it would be, when the person
Exactly,
would
but it
bury.
didn't matter.
Be 3 days,
They
10 days.
started right away as soon as they left it.
Okay.
All right, we'll leave it over here today and see everybody next week in Mertzon.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and thank you for listening.